Welcome in, one and all, to the Travis DuFour Show, episode 9. I am Travis DuFour, and as always, you can follow the DuFour brand at the DuFour brand, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. We are everywhere. And without any further ado, introducing my special guest, longtime friend, Corey Kipps.
Who?
Corey Kipps.
What's going on, Mr. Travis? It's good to see you.
Man.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Very nice to have you on the show. We got a lot lined up for episode 9. As some of the people knew from last week, my co-host Mike Yatsko is going to be out for this episode and next Friday. So I had to think of something quick. And Corey Kipps, old Corey, he was quick to respond to the message. He jumped at the chance. And here we are on the Travis DuFour Show.
Very grateful.
And with that being said, we're just going to jump right into it, man. We've been friends a long time, but there are still a lot of things that I don't know about you. And we're going to be diving into multiple facets of the music business. Going to try to cover a lot of ground in this special episode. So just to start off things, you being a singer, let's get that out of the way.
Okay.
Among other things, when would you say that you really discovered that you even had a voice?
I think so. I've been singing since I could talk, but I was doing it like in my bedroom and like kind of singing to songs and stuff like that. I always felt that I was like decent, you know what I mean? But it wasn't until I took choir class in 6th grade that I realized that my voice was something that I liked the sound of and could shape into something. Maybe I could do something with this. I'd say it was around 14 years old, maybe slightly before that, because I was teaching myself to play guitar and kind of like learning to sing the songs as I was playing them. But it wasn't until like freshman year of high school when I was really like, oh man, I think that I could actually do something with singing. People were responding to me well with my voice and, you know, encouraging me and that kind of thing. And that's really when I kind of embraced it, so to speak.
I mean, I've known you since you were about 17 years old. Your voice has kind of sounded the same. Did puberty did that ever fuck with you or?
Not really. You know, what's funny is that I've kind of always looked the same, even just like my body and my face and stuff. It hasn't, you know, and my voice, like I've always looked a little young, always sounded a little young, just kind of with that higher timbre in my voice. It never really, I don't recall a time where, you know, where the changing of my voice or the changing of anything with that type of thing affected me in any way. Thankfully, I know it's happened to other people and that kind of thing. I don't recall it ever really getting in my way.
Yeah, that's something that we found out on the last episode of my show here is that Mike Yatsko, my co-host, apparently whenever he was a kid, he had a talent for singing and his family would have him sing and stuff like that. But one thing that he realized was as he got older, he didn't keep working on his voice and he ended up losing it. So that's not necessarily what happened to you or?
Well, I think if you stop singing, or I think if you kind of when I started really taking it seriously, I think I was like towards the end of my voice changing in the first place. So there was never really a time where I stopped or put it down in such a way that my voice could, like, you know, kind of change behind my back, so to speak, you know, and then I come back and find that like I don't quite have it anymore. I don't think that happened because I continually sang. And again, it was like, you know, any puberty-esque change in my voice, I think, was pretty much over with by the time I was really trying to harness it. So
whenever I was a child, I had a terrible stutter. I could barely talk. Not a lot of people know that about me.
And I didn't know that about you.
Yeah. I spent about 6 years, elementary school, about 6 years with a speech therapist. And, you know, I learned a lot of different speaking techniques and stuff like that. And I think that I've always wanted some kind of a spotlight on me. So as far as like speaking in front of the class and things like that, I never got anxiety. I got a fucking rush out of that shit.
Same, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So whenever they'd ask for like a volunteer to read the next paragraph, your hand's going up.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Absolutely. Yep.
Anytime I got to use like a goofy voice or anything like that too, I kind of jump
Yes.
at that.
The showmanship. Yeah, it comes naturally. And there's something we have in common. I was that way as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so that's cool, man. Okay, so you got this voice and all that. Whenever I was doing research for the show, I YouTubed Corey Kipps, and one of the first videos that I saw, well, not one of the first, one of the videos I saw, which kind of caught my attention, was this 1-8 youth group where they were kind of talking to you, and you were realizing that they had a musical background at this church, and you found like a home per se there. What can you tell me a little bit about what that was?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can tell you about how I experienced it then because I look at it very differently now. Um, During that period of my life, I was very hungry to kind of get into things. I was very hungry to get into music and to get into um, really any sort of like club-esque thing. I just wanted to feel included. And that was a place that offered that for me. So I kind of went with that. Though I wasn't exactly sure how I felt about like the idea of like believing in God or like religion as a whole. I just kind of like I was kind of like going through the motions per se. I think to some degree I believed and felt like a sort of, togetherness and that kind of thing. Um, but looking back now, I'm not religious now. I identify as atheist now.
Interesting.
Yep. And they they were good to me, and I loved what I was doing while I was with them. And I think it was a positive experience overall, like religion aside. Um, but what I can say is that video that you found, I've asked them to take that down many times. The guy that initially put it up, I've contacted him and he was very understanding. He went in to try to take it down, just because with what I'm doing now, kind of exactly what you've done. You Google or not Google, but you go onto YouTube and you type my name, like that's what you find. I knew that was going to continue to happen, so I asked him to take it down, and he was like, the login credentials, I don't remember them, and I can't get back in, and that's a valid thing too. I wasn't upset with him for that because there's a project that I was kind of working on back in 2020, late 2019, early 2020, and I wanted to log back into the YouTube. And once you forget those credentials, if it's tied to a Google account, there really is no way you can get back in. You can lose an account very easily, and there's nothing in place that can get it back. So I'd say all in all, looking back on that, it was a step in the right direction for me as far as like feeling positive, feeling connected with people, and kind of learning the ropes with like live music. And because they were having me perform on stage and like that kind of thing. That was my first real taste of using professional equipment and performing in front of a large audience. But the religion aspect, that's not something that even then I wasn't fully connected in it. And now as an adult, like looking back, I absolutely have no religious angle and don't affiliate with any sort of, like I don't consider myself Christian. And so as far as the religion aspect, I would say that's kind of null for me. But what that era of time was and what it meant for kind of my upbringing in music and that kind of thing, I think it was positive.
Well, I think also, just from watching the video, it seems like there was like a kind of like a spectacle kind of thing about this place, because you even said in the video, you were like, I saw the lights and the setup and like all this extravagant stuff. Like it seemed like this church had a little bit of money to really put towards their
As churches tend to. Yes. Yeah. When that part is true. I remember walking in for the first time and the state, like the gear that they had, it was all pro. And when I first started doing music, I set out to do it in such a way, like when I hit a moment in my life before I, became a part of that place. I just knew that to do it well and to do it professionally, it needed to be done with like like I understood the distinction of people jamming in their basements with kind of like shitty gear and like that kind of thing, as opposed to like the gear that you need and the presence that you need and the performance that you need. And they really had that. And that blew me away. And that was very attractive and appealing to me.
I mean, growing up loving music, just feeling so connected to music, then you find yourself in this place where you feel like you can really dive into something that you love. Like I get it.
Oh yes. Yep. They even went as far as to allow me to have like my own shows there. On 2 occasions, yep, they allowed me to bring my own musicians in with music that I had rehearsed, like my own stuff, and play it to an audience. And so that was all very, very positive.
Very nice. And even then, first performances and stuff like that. I mean, you were probably getting the butterflies in your stomach and stuff like that. But did you feel any kind of like anxiety before this kind of stuff was going on?
Well, even still to this day, I feel I still get, butterflies before like certain things. I think that's human, and I kind of try to like embrace it, because I think that when you feel those butterflies start to kind of go away after the first song or two, and then you really start to get the hang of things, and like it that to me is the rush of doing it. And I think that the butterflies is like part of that experience. Back then it was a little less so. As I've gotten older, the butterflies have gotten worse, because just as I've gotten older and experienced more, I feel a little more vulnerable to things like judgment and how people are going to like take what I'm doing, if they're going to like it or not. Back then I just didn't care. So I would get up there and I was just wholly myself, and I didn't care like what people thought or like if they didn't like it. But so to like kind of boil it down, back then the butterflies were a lot less. I get them more these days, but never at any point has it like held me back, because I've always felt that it's like part of it all. You know what I mean? If I wasn't feeling stuff like that, then I would think that, something's like wrong.
I think a lot of people are going to connect with what you just said. I mean, I even remember as a kid myself, a teenager, just feeling bulletproof, man. I'd walk anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's 2 o'clock at night. Like I'll walk in a back alley. I'm not scared of shit. And
I was very much that way. Yeah.
You're a little more cautious as time goes on, with more life experience and stuff. Like, oh fuck, I remember whenever that happened. I'm not doing that again.
You grow, you become more self-aware, you become more aware of others and that kind of thing. Plus, as technology has grown, as accessibility to all kinds of things has grown, I think that also kind of changes how you feel the influence of those butterflies, so to speak.
So how was your family, man? Were they supportive of it? They knew you, like, did they know you were going to this church, kind of getting this experience? Like, what was going on with that?
Well, it's both of my parents were always like supportive of any artistic direction I wanted to go. When I was a lot younger, my thing that everybody like knew me for and were like encouraging me to do was actually drawing. I was a very talented, honestly, I still am. I still draw and paint.
I was about to say, do you still?
I don't do it to the degree that I used to. I've been wanting to get back into it. I can still draw, frankly, quite well. I've considered going into tattoo and stuff like that, but that was like my thing back when I was a kid, and I never thought it would be being a musician. So when I really started kind of taking the bull by the horns with music, they were like supportive, but kind of in the way that I would think that from their perspective, their son's kind of doing their thing and stuff like that. And I think that they were proud of me for like making those moves and pursuing those things. But it wasn't until like I really started growing and finding opportunities that were actually like affiliated with the music industry and stuff like that, that they were really like, oh, okay, he's onto something. And that's really when the support really started coming through. And I think that kind of just happened naturally, because I can't speak from a parent's perspective, but if I was a parent and my kid like started doing that stuff, I would of course be immediately proud. But how would I guess I wouldn't know how to it's just like, what do you think of it? It's like, do you think that your kid's going to blow up and like be this thing? I mean, you don't know. But then when they kind of start really making serious moves, then you feel super proud. That's kind of how it went down, type of thing.
Like a sense of pride, sure. I know that whenever I got into the wrestling business, my family has only I've had maybe 1,000 matches. My family has only seen me wrestle 3 or 4 times. But those moments, those 3 or 4 times really meant a lot to me. And I really had to kick it into that extra gear. Now, has your family seen you play?
My mom has seen quite a few shows. Even some of the larger scale ones. My dad, however, my dad's only seen 2. I played whatever the mall is in Hagerstown, Apple Blossom Mall. Is that what it is? Yeah. When I was 18, I played an acoustic set at the Hot Topic in the mall, and my dad was there for that. And you know what's funny is that's actually one of my better performances. I remember not messing up at all. I played it with such confidence, even at such a young age.
How did you get Hot Topic to get on board with you?
Oh man. So you struck oil with this story. So this story is insane, and I'm going to go ahead and give it to you. This is going to be
it here first, folks.
This is going to be out in the world now. So on my 17th birthday, this is going to get wild. So here we go. On my 17th birthday, my sister Holly, she picked me up from my house. I was living with my mom. My mom gave me, I think, like $100 to go spend on my birthday. And at the time, I was really in love with this girl, right? So my sister takes me out for my birthday with this money that my mom had given me. We go to Golden Corral first, where I eat like 3 fucking steaks. Oh, I can cuss on here?
Fuck yeah.
Okay. So I go and I have like 3 steaks, like 2 glasses of chocolate milk, a whole bunch of chocolate and all this stuff. And then she takes me to the mall where I'm going to go spend my money. She stays in the car. I go to Hot Topic because I want to buy this Marilyn Monroe stuff for this girl I really liked. I didn't even care about buying stuff for my birthday. I loved this girl, right? And I buy all the stuff. I'm up at the counter. She bags it up. She gives it to me. I'm standing there and I see a little advertisement. It's like, are you in a band? Do you want to play an acoustic show here? Talk to the manager. So I was talking to the lady at the counter. I was like, I want to talk about this. And she gives me a card with the number on it and stuff like that. And as soon as she hands me this card, like her fingers are on the card, my fingers are on the card, my stomach turns and I shit my pants without any warning. It's not like I was walking around the store and felt like some warning signs. Brother, there was none of that. And it's not even like I had a second to try to, oh God, don't poop yourself. It just relaxed and I'm holding the card and I look at her like this. And she's looking at me like, are you okay? And I'm like, where's the nearest bathroom? And she's like, it's all the way down there. It was at the other side of the mall. Right.
Oh,
so
no.
I take the card, take my stuff, and I start walking across the mall, shitting with every step. And I'm truly, and dude, my adrenaline kicks in. I'm so like, I mean, I'm sure you can imagine. And I'm wondering, oh my God, is it like visible? Can anybody behind me see it? I felt like all eyes were on me. In all likelihood, they probably weren't. So I get to, I'm going to try to make this quick because I know this is going way off the rails, but I walk all the way to the bathroom. And by the time that I get there, bathroom's packed. So I stand there, wait for my turn to get into the stall. And then I have to do this like super lengthy, like cleanup thing where like I actually had to like rip my underwear up and like flush it down the toilet because what do you do? And there's like people like waiting to get into the stall and they're like, what's taking so long and all this other stuff. And I'm not going to say to them, dude, I just shit my pants, like holy. So like, I need you to give me a moment. Like I couldn't do that. So it was horrible. And then finally, when all was said and done, I leave the bathroom. Oh, by the way, when I was trying to clean up, my sister's calling me the whole time because I was taking a long time and I couldn't answer the phone because there were so many people in the bathroom. I'm not about to explain to her that this is what's going on and all these people can hear me. So I finally make it out of the restroom. I'm start walking towards the door so that I can leave. There was a hole in my jeans. I did not know this. My stuff, my goodies.
Sure.
They were visible. And I did not know this. I didn't even feel like the breeze or anything because my adrenaline was in, you know what I mean? I was just on cloud nine, just trying to figure my shit out. No pun intended, or actually no pun intended. I want to own that one. And there was an old couple, and I believe they saw something because like they were like kind of scoffing, and that's actually when I looked down and discovered that. So I had to like kind of hold my legs together and kind of waddle to my sister's car, and I get in, and then I explain the entire thing to her. That's how I got that Hot Topic show. that's how I landed the Hot Topic show. 17th birthday, and so actually the next day I called and was able to speak to the manager, and I got the show, and so there's your story for that. I've told that story to many people who are like close to me and that kind of thing, but there it is permanently in the out into the world,
in the annals of history.
Yeah, I mean, Steve-O shits himself on purpose, so like not like I gotta, you know.
I remember just a quick side story, just so we're going tit for tat here. In third grade, it was the standardized testing, and to my teacher's credit, she said, if you have to use the restroom, use it now. Once the test starts, no one's leaving. And I didn't have to shit whenever she said that.
But you never have to, like when you're supposed to. That's like the same thing with laughing. If you're not supposed to laugh, everything's fucking hilarious. You know what I mean?
But thankfully, I did. I ended up having I shit myself.
Bowel movement?
yeah, if you will. And I just kind of walked up to the teacher she could kind of tell that my face was like see, I fucking told you. And so yes, I think a lot of people have shit themselves in public. So
I think a lot of people have shit themselves in public. The togetherness that we can all achieve from the stories of shitting ourselves. I think that it's something that most people are bound to do a time or two in their life.
I'm going to be jumping around the questions I got here since we're having a good time comedy wise here.
Sure.
Let's talk a little comedy here. Now, I knew whenever I met you that you had that quick wit. You had a response for anything, and it was fucking funny. Have you wrote comedy music? What's your relationship with comedy?
I'm very glad you asked me that because I've recently been writing some skits. They are things that I plan to launch under my new brand that I've launched, and I can plug that later when we get on to more in depth with it.
Plug it now. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Well, I launched a new brand called Purgatory. And what I'm doing is I'm launching it on all socials with Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, all that stuff. And essentially what it is I'm writing whatever music I want to in any capacity I want to. And when I write it and record it, I'm going to stream that. Like when I'm actually recording in my audio workstation, I'm going to stream myself actually recording these songs. A lot of them are going to be comedy based. I have this one that I already put out. Nobody really caught it though, because I didn't release it like in any marketed way. But it's like just this little ditty that's like, you and I both wear our spandex G-strings extra tight. I dip my ball sack in your chocolate oyster every night. And it was kind of like this industrial kind of like rock thing. And I want to take those little ditties and stream myself recording them, coming up with them, and then releasing the final products as TikToks, that kind of thing.
Real quick, is the Bloodhound Gang, is that one of your inspirations? Because you kind of gave me Bloodhound Gang vibes just now.
I've listened to a lot of their stuff. I bet you it is probably in a subconscious way because I'm not like a huge fan, and I don't like consciously draw inspiration. But I listen to their stuff. I listen to a lot of Tenacious D. So I would say probably, yeah, but again, not in any like conscious way that, you know what I'm trying to say. I'm sure.
Yeah. That's good shit, man. And I'm glad that you mentioned Tenacious D. As far as comedy and music, I don't know. They're masters of it. Yeah.
I think, yeah, when it comes naturally to a person and you're not afraid of embracing that, I think it always works out for the best. And I've always, with my musical history, I've always tried to write serious music. which is, I mean, I'm still doing it. For instance, the see, I'm already messing up. Purgatory. That's the play on words, obviously. Purgatory. But I have a full album that I'm currently recording with some guys out in Orlando. My buddy Jared, who's amazing. You should go follow him on the Blind People Watcher on YouTube. He is blind, but that has not held him back in any way artistically. And he's got like a big, nice live room, and he's been in bands that have toured overseas and like played on massive stages and stuff like that. So him and I are kind of partnered up, and I am working on a full length album that's about 5 songs in as far as like tracking it, and it's serious. So there's degrees, like there's going to be some funny stuff that I'm going to do, because I realize that embracing the comedy is more natural. It's more organic. So that's going to be incorporated a lot more. Also, I'm going to be doing gaming videos too. I forgot to mention that when I was like initially doing the plug, but the same way that Markiplier does, you just film yourself with, you got yourself down in the bottom corner and then there's the game screen. I'm going to be doing that too. And that's all under that Purgatory brand. So I would say expect a lot of comedy. There's still going to be some serious stuff. But I think what I was trying to say, like with the question that you had asked, is, I never really took the time to look at the benefit of embracing humor in the music. You know what I mean? I always thought that it had to be like some serious thing. It's got to be serious. It's got to be kind of like Breaking Benjamin or kind of like Seether or Chevelle, like serious topics, serious music. Like that's the way forward. Now I'm realizing that we live in a day and age where people like human connection more than anything. And I think one of the things that has like carried me through friendships and like a lot of the good things that people I've worked with would have to say about me, I would think would be that I'm funny and, that kind of thing. So that's something that I'm leaning way more into now with what I'm moving into now.
That's so dope. And guys, please check out Purgatory whenever you get the chance. My next venture personally in my life is going the stand-up comedy route. There's just something about whenever you land a joke that makes people laugh, smile, makes them feel good. There's just something I'm kind of fucking addicted to that. And would you say that, you can make people feel all kinds of ways, but with comedy, that's a special feeling whenever you get somebody to belly laugh or anything like that. Yeah.
Yep. I think it's different levels of human connection. It's kind of just like varying markets and like what people like, because if you write a serious song that's sad and makes people sad, they're going to get that out of it, as long as you can get that across artistically, intuitively well, in a way that people can get it. And I think the same thing can be said for humor. And I kind of want to just do that full spectrum, but I would think that my favorite is making people laugh, which is why I'm now much more willing to like it. Now I see that that's totally a viable route to go. Because I love making people laugh, especially when it's just fucking stupid. Like I love absurdist humor, like fucking, like just fucking crazy shit just doesn't make any sense. And people are like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? You just throw people off. Like one of my favorite things to do is I'll be having like a normal conversation with someone and be like, and they're like, what? And I'm like, oh. and they're like, man, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, exactly. And it's just, that is my love of that. See, just now, like talking with you, kind of like the joy it brings.
Yeah, and whenever you search Corey Kipps on YouTube, one of the videos that also pops up is I guess you went skinny dipping. What's the story behind this?
Me and my buddy Michael Cash, we were trying to do this kind of like YouTube channel trio where me, him, and his brother would just do kind of these comedy-esque things. And one of them...
You've had a passion for comedy for a while then.
Yeah. I just, as far as music goes, I never leaned into that musically. So that's the distinction now. That's the difference now. But I just decided, hey, get a video of me. I'm going to take all my clothes off and run into the water, and you can film it and we'll put music on it. If I recall, that video was formatted incorrectly. It's like tilted the wrong way. Like you have to turn your head like this to like see it. properly. And what's interesting, and I'm surprised nobody's noticed this, but at first glance of that video, when you first watch it, you kind of think, oh, I can only see his butt, and like that's all you see. If you click
thumbnail.
if you click frame by frame and actually watch through that video for a split second when I'm running and I raise, I think it was my right leg up, you can get a quick little look at my balls in that video. So my balls are out there. I'm sure it's out there somewhere else too, because I've done a lot of, just dumb. I always liked Jackass and kind of like that kind of thing. So I've never been afraid to get naked.
Whoever's doing the moderating on YouTube, you guys got to get a little better at this, because this video has been on there over 10 years.
Yeah, so. You guys missed my balls. What are you doing? You're just gonna let my balls be on the internet? How dare you, YouTube? I should be flagged for that, don't you know?
Yeah,
or at least that channel should, frankly. You know what I mean? I don't know how much it can come back to me, but because technically that's not my channel. I don't have any. I doubt they even know how to get into it now. That was, I think that came out when you and I were hanging out first, probably around 2010 or 11.
God, it just seems like forever ago. But let's go ahead and jump into this next topic. I want to kind of dive into the creation of a band, like. So one of the first things I wanted to talk to you about is, creating a band, friends versus strangers, people that you meet along your way. Is there a preference there? I'm sure you've done both.
So for me, it's all about intuition. I tend to analyze every single bit of what is going to make any project succeed. I think branding is very, very important. I also think the music is very, very important. So I think that what's most important to me is the way that people are thinking. How do they want to go about this project? Do they have the same vision? Are they able to navigate this in a way that I feel is really going to lend itself to, say, a business model that will get it moving forward? Like, for instance, there's a couple bands when I first moved out here to Florida, they wanted me to audition, and I would go there and I would like check them out and stuff like that. And I asked them if they use in-ear monitors, and they're like, what's in-ear monitors? I'm like, okay, well, what do you use to record? Like, what's your DAW? And they're like, well, what's a DAW? I'm like, oh my goodness. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's that kind of thing.
I'm not in the music business. Are these red flags then?
To me, because when you go to launch a band or a brand or any sort of musical anything, it's always an audio and visual thing together. So you have to have the intuition of how's this going to look? Do you know, like, things like maybe rule of thirds, like when you're positioning a band in a photo, for instance, does it look good, or is it just three guys kind of against a wall kind of thing? You got to kind of like have that kind of ability to know what works and to kind of know what strikes the eye well. And the same thing goes with audio. Like, are you a talented songwriter, or do you think that you're a talented songwriter? You know what I mean? You can tell the difference. Like, it's no secret that plenty of people have been, introduced to people and they're like, hey, listen to my band, and you put it on and it sounds frankly like a local band. It sounds very much like a production that was like, this is not something that you could buy off the shelf of like FYE back when
it's
when
something
CDs
you're going to find on Bandcamp.
Yeah. And give me 1 second, my cigarette went out. Oh no. So those are the things that I look for. Like, when I look at a band, like, let's take a look at Rammstein, for instance. Rammstein, every facet of their brand is fully realized. Like, they know what their look is. They know what their sound is. They know like what all the things are that make them them. They lean into that and they present it all across the board with no mistakes, the way that it needs to be. And that's the kind of stuff that needs to, in my opinion, go down if something's really going to take off and go correctly. And time again, I've run into people that kind of aren't thinking those same things, which is okay. Yeah. Because it's not to say that like, oh, I've got the rightest idea, you know what I mean? But I do know when something's not quite going to cut it. So in that aspect, like, to take it all the way back to your question of strangers versus people I know, I've kept a lot of people in my circle that I know are very talented and have strong intuition on how these things need to be done. But there's been times where I've met complete strangers, but you can tell they've got it. You can tell their knowledge, they have the intuition, they have the ability to listen to a song and think to themselves, okay, this is good. This has something here. Or no, this is just somebody who threw some chords together and they're kind of trying to do the band thing and that kind of thing, but it lacks not just polish, but like an intuitive foundation. It's not really something that is going to take. Like, do people want to hear this? Does this catch as a brand?
Yeah. Now, and you mentioned Rammstein. I've called them Ramstein.
They're like one of the most mispronounced bands ever. Like, I've heard Ramstein. I believe that the proper's Rammstein, but okay. I think so. Yeah,
fair enough. Now, but they're one of those bands that their live performance, like for another example, like a Disturbed or something like that, their live performance is key for them. They're known for their live performances. Mm-hmm. And so that it kind of sounds like that kind of presentation kind of influenced you. Would I be wrong?
No, not necessarily, because the live act is, I think that's just one of many assets of, I think it all needs to be very strong. I think every part of things needs to be fully realized. For instance, there's no way you're going to start with whatever budget somebody may have unless they have like $20 million to go with. Then they can do like this crazy pyro and stuff like that with all the permits. But if you just think to yourself, okay, the music, like let's say starting a band from the ground up, you got to write music that has something there. The music has to have something there that is distinguishable, cuts through the fog, doesn't quite sound like anybody else, at least in the degree of like what you're writing about or how the sounds are coming together. And then once you got that down, it's like, okay, now how are you going to record it? Needs to be quality. And like that goes into a whole different mess of things with like gear and like people who are knowledge and qualified and like using these types of gear to create a quality industry standard product. Then you move it into the live room. And you got to think, okay, like what's the choreography? What's the light show? What's the, like, how is this going to run from being like, I've always looked at playing live as an act. A lot of people, when they play live, it's customary to have in-ear monitors and you can hear the click track in your ears. And there's actually a DAW running and there's like some backing tracks in the back. And the whole live show is one big act that say the drummer or whoever else is involved will hit the space bar like after a song to stop the stuff. And then the singer does his banter and then you hit start again. The next song, you hear a couple clicks and then boom. And everybody can hear their click throughout the song. So it's perfectly on time. So the whole thing is like a scheduled act, like on a grid. And those are the ones, in my opinion, that come across really, really well. And to me, that's that high standard that I really try to go for. And it's like bands that are really going to cut through the fog. I think these things are necessary for the most part. There are bands that per se don't use in-ear monitors and like don't play to a click and that kind of thing, which there's lots of bands that do that and they have great live shows. But we live in an age where it's really got to grab. You've got to connect wholly with that brand, whatever brand you're doing, across the board, from the way that you look, sound, how you come across, like what's your hook. It's all got to be there. And I feel like this is very vital stuff.
I would say that one of the bands that really had me pay attention to this, what we're talking about, is whenever Linkin Park came out with their Live in Texas DVD. Did you ever see that one?
I did see that, which is odd because I'm not like a huge Linkin Park fan. I wasn't like, there was only like a handful of bands that I was really into. Linkin Park wasn't one of them, but I do realize, obviously the legacy, the impact and that kind of thing. They very much had something. Like all these bands that we grew up with, they had something. Like System of a Down had their angle, and it's System of a Down. Linkin Park, Disturbed, Caesar, they all have it. But yeah, I did see what the Texas one. I did see that.
Now, I know that you're a big fan of Breaking Benjamin. How's their live show?
Well, I always wanted to see them in their previous lineup, like kind of what they were before, because as I'm sure they have they have an all new lineup since.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so in 2015 they came back with an all new lineup, because I think in either 2012 or 11 or something like that, uh, it basically came down to only Ben. Like everybody else got fired over some stuff, and I saw them when they had the new lineup for the first time. I never got to see them in my favorite version of them, but I thought their live show was amazing. Absolutely amazing. You can tell that they thought about it. You know, they didn't go up there and wing it. Like this is an act that they put together, you know, and that's the way that I tend to think about things.
Who do you think really started that trend? Do you think it was probably like an Ozzy Osbourne?
I think it's grown over time, because when you look at music from like the 60s and the 70s and stuff like that. I mean, I wasn't alive back then, but I think it was something different, that you didn't have a lot of these technological things right there, stutter. So it was just a different thing. I think kind of as it grew into the 90s and the early 2000s, all of that kind of bare naked stuff, not bare naked as in physically bare naked, but like stripped down performances. It had already been done so many times by so many people. It's like, okay, what's going to be new? Like perhaps adding sounds that can't be played by somebody on stage. Therefore, backing tracks that have to be perfectly on time with your performance. The only way to do that really is click tracks, or somebody like hitting samples, like when you're at that part in the song. So I think it's grown over time as technology has grown and people have needed more to chew on, kind of.
Yeah.
Or at least that's how I perceive it. I think it really started happening when music was starting to get saturated and becoming a stronger market in the mainstream. It just kind of grew.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Now let's talk about your first real opportunities in music. We'll talk about some big stuff later, but we talk about like Hot Topic. But what are some of your first like big opportunities that you think?
Well, I grew up in. I have to kind of go back a little bit for this to make sense, but I grew up in just a kind of a rough home life kind of thing, and like the judicial system. I was being sent away to like boys' homes and that kind of thing. And when I was in these placements, all I had was like my time to myself to like learn what I wanted to do. And a lot of that was I wanted to learn how to play guitar and do music and stuff like that. So I've always been thinking about this. And when I finally got all the way out of placements, like when I came of age, like close to 18, and I could no longer be sent away to these places, I like took straight off. I started my own band. It was a band called Phantom in Chicago.
Yeah,
it was me.
I had one of your shirts.
Yeah. It was, and even that band had a couple different incarnations, because when it first started, it was actually very much like Tenacious D. It was just me on acoustic singing and playing the rhythm section. And I had a guitar player named Mike Byrne, nasty guitar player. He graduated from Berklee College of Music. So he's just a fantastic guitar player. Like, I mean, like crazy sweeps. Just, he can do anything on the instrument. But it evolved into getting a drummer, getting a bass player, stuff like that. Started playing shows. And a band was doing some stuff in Pennsylvania around that time. At the time, they were called Absolution. And believe it or not, Absolution actually beat a very early new band called, at the time, Motionless in White at a Battle of the Bands in Scranton. Yeah. So Absolution kind of, I guess they like broke up or like had some kind of falling out. I'm actually not sure. But a new band was being formed kind of from the ashes of Absolution. And they contacted me because they had heard of me through Phantom in Chicago. And that was my first anything, because when I went to audition for these guys, I drove 3 hours to Pennsylvania. I didn't have a license at the time. A buddy of mine named David drove me all the way there. It was a 3-hour trip. I had called him up. I was like, hey, something I really need to go audition for. Like, this is looking big. Would you mind taking me? He took me. And when I first met the guys and went into their kind of headquarters, it was a house. It was a big property in Pennsylvania, in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, which is where Breaking Benjamin is from. I believe 3 Days Grace it was also based out of there. I could be wrong on that, but it was like a hotbed for kind of that early 2000s drop tune, sophisticated rock, active rock sound. And I went there, and I'm on this property, and I go into the because there's 2 houses on the property. There was one house where people lived in, and then there was the other house where the drummer lived in the top half, but the bottom half was a fully realized, perfectly built recording studio and live room. Yeah. It was amazing. It was amazing. Like they had everything. I mean, top of the line, every piece of gear. Like the studio room where you would actually record in was one big room, and it had a big glass wall in front of the recording deck. And you could look through the glass wall and see the live room, which was fully soundproofed. It even had like booths going all around it, like little sliding glass door booths that you could go in and close the door and seal it and like track vocals or guitar or what have you in there. That's when I realized, okay, we're really on to something. And I found out that they were, at the time, they were calling themselves After the Mayans. And they had submitted to trademark, but got rejected because apparently there was a nightclub in Vegas called the Maya. So we had to think of a new name, and it wound up being Digital Collapse. I wanted to call ourselves Weapon Divine, but I got outvoted, and it wound up being Digital Collapse. But that was the first real, okay, this is getting serious, because they had a collection of songs that they had already recorded the instrumentals to in Architect Studios in Butler, New Jersey, which is where Seven Dust at the time had just completed their album Blackout the Sun. And then I found out that the band that I had just joined was actually being directly produced by Clint Lowry of Seven Dust.
Wow.
And then we released an EP, played some local shows. And then the drummer's dad was the band's manager, and he had a company called Absolute Road Cases. He was building road cases commission for very big names. There was drum cases built for was it Filter? We delivered a guitar vault to I believe his name was Andy in the band Filter. We also built 16 road cases for Nonpoint and delivered it directly to them at their rehearsal space and stuff like that. And that's kind of how we were, I think, at least somewhat in hindsight, that's how we were able to get onto some of the tours that we got on. But one thing led to another, and next thing you know, we were on a tour package with, at first it was Seven Dust and 10 Years.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we did another tour with Nonpoint, On Earth. There was a couple other big bands that weaved in and out of the tours. And we also got to play the Ride for Dime, which is Ride for Dime was like a charity event for Dimebag Darrell that cool. I believe it was an event that kind of weaved in and out of different bands' tours. And this event happened to fall on Seven Dust's tour. And we played that show in Nashville, Tennessee, and like just the doors just started opening, man. Things were working, and that's kind of how I got my first serious start.
And that's a buzzword for me, man. Dimebag Darrell. He literally, the way that he died is the reason why anytime as a pro wrestler that I was in the ring, and if any fans decided that they wanted to take that fucking extra step and put their hands on me, I just always remember Dimebag. I didn't want to take any fucking chances, and I would fight to the death with whoever was trying to hurt me.
I'd be lying if I didn't say that hasn't crossed my mind a time or two. I remember playing a particular show at this place called Ziggy's by the Sea with Digital Collapse when we were on the Seven Dust tour. It was a nice big place. Somebody had gotten in a very violent altercation like during one of our breakdowns, and it like spilled out into the street. And I remember when our set was done, I went out and I ran the merch booth after, and dude, there was like blood everywhere and stuff like that. And I always thought to myself, like, there was a couple moments on stage because I could see that something bad was happening out there, you know? And it's like, the thought that crossed my mind was like, dude, like we are so vulnerable up here right now, like as performers, and like that, there's some fear there. Like that thought always crosses my mind. And it's unfortunate that, you know, I mean, everybody knows about what happened with Dimebag Darrell, and it's just, it's traumatic, and it makes you wonder. I mean, there's risks with everything. But as performers, as artists, for somebody to do something like that, it's like, you kind of don't know what to think of it. You know, it's scary. It's sad.
Well, I'm glad it doesn't make you venture away from it. But I mean, because life is very unpredictable. Anything could happen to anybody at any point.
Yeah. I think to myself, you know, I could get in the car and go to Walmart and wind up in, a head-on collision because somebody else is doing something nuts. You know what I mean? So
muggings are real. You get stabbed in the parking lot. Sure.
my anxieties, I tend to have these thoughts by myself when I'm alone, like the fear thoughts of what could happen. But when I'm on stage, or when I'm like totally involved with something, or like, let's say I'm in studio, like doing something, those thoughts aren't there. It's just magic then, you know what I mean? Usually the adrenaline's in and, I'm just totally being myself. And then, you kind of don't worry, but every now and then a little thought will slip in like, oh my God, what if a plane crashes into the building I'm recording in right now kind of thing. You know what I mean? But I think that's just kind of, I have odd anxieties like that kind of anyway.
I have a close personal relationship with the phrase "everything happens for a reason."
Okay.
And if something like that is to happen to me per se, it was probably going to happen whether I wanted it to or not. That's why I go into mostly everything that I do with no fear.
Honestly, I think that that's a good way to think about it. I think that humans like need something to, because if we spent our time like thinking about how like anything could happen at any time, because like literally existing is just particles of chaos just doing whatever, like, you know what I mean? I think that to instead think, okay, everything happens for a reason. There's pathways and that kind of thing. I think that helps the mind. They say that like giving yourself up to a higher power, that kind of makes you feel better and more secure in life. I think it kind of, comforts a lot of human insecurity.
Yeah. Now, you named a lot of bands that you were kind of having like.
I've been name dropping like crazy.
Oh no. What I'd like to know is, have you met any of your inspirations?
I met Sevendust directly. We shared a green room on one of the shows. Dope. And they were all down there and everybody was kind of mingling. It was kind of like the VIP area where, and they had people down there, people they were friends with and stuff like that. And I remember LJ, their singer, he's about as short as I am, which shocked me. I didn't realize that. Yeah. Because I'm only 5'5.5". I believe he's roughly my same height, maybe a pinch shorter. But he comes right up to me and he's like, "Hey man, what's your name?" And I said, "My name's Corey. Nice to meet you, dude." And he's like, "Good to see you, young man. Have a good time tonight, And I remember him saying that he had seen me on a couple of the performances prior on the tour. And he said that he kind of liked what I was doing. And that meant a lot. But I also, like I was saying with Linkin Park, Sevendust wasn't a band that I like really grew up, really consuming in that way. Like, yeah. I remember I would get home from school and I would do homework in the living room and I would put on Music Choice on satellite TV. Yeah. And I would often see Sevendust, being on there. And I brought that band up to my brother-in-law at the time. He's like, "Yeah, I love Sevendust." So I always knew like what Sevendust's impact was. So I really enjoyed that. Now, as far as really meeting an inspiration, not really, no. In fact, I had a somewhat negative experience because when I first saw Breaking Benjamin, obviously I had been wanting to see them like my whole life because they were pretty much my biggest inspiration up until 2015. When they got the new lineup, the sound kind of changed, which happens. People evolve, but I wasn't as connected to what they were putting out. Anyways, that's kind of when I saw them. My fiance actually surprised me and took me to see them in 2019. I saw them. And we're in this particular part of the audience where there's like a gate, it's like on the side. I was right at the gate, and Ben gets off the stage and comes walking all the way around the venue, all through the crowd and stuff like that. And he comes past the gate and everybody's reaching out and touching him. And I've wanted to meet this guy forever because he's influenced so much of what I've done. So I reached out and tried to touch him. And man, I'm hoping I just perceived it wrong. But what I got was, he made eye contact with me particularly, and when I was about to touch him, he pivoted and went the other way. Everybody else got to touch him, but when I reached out and I was the last one, he looked right at me and turned. And yeah, so I was like, well, fuck me then. I just guess, and I don't mean this in any negative way because it was actually incredibly positive, but my niece got to go up on stage because we had her there because, yeah, when my niece was like 12, 13, she and I started bonding over music and she became a Breaking Benjamin fan. So years later, when we're living in Montana, and my niece was living in Montana too at the time, we all go. And then after, when he saw me in Pivot and Turn, I didn't get to touch him. Shortly after, he's like, all the kids in the audience, get up here. And Skylar looked, my niece, Skylar, she looked at me, she's like, oh, and I'm like, go on, get up there. And so she got to experience all that. And in a way, it's like beautiful because I had spent so much of my time being so heavily influenced by this band. And it's like, maybe I didn't get what I wanted, but like, does that matter in the grand scheme of things? She's going to get something super special out of this. And it's something she's going to remember for the rest of her life. So, yeah.
Man, that's really dope. But they do say never meet your idols. So,
yeah, they say that because I think I think that's another important thing of branding. When you brand, then you control how your project or whatever it is you're doing is being presented. That's what the public's going to think. They're going to think that they know your character and all this other stuff. And then if there's things that are outside of that they weren't expecting or what have you, you never know how they're going to, take it or like what have you. So I kind of think that that's why people say that.
So who exactly would you kind of jump at the chance to work with?
Ooh,
actually work with?
That's a really good question. Oh God, that's a really good question. Okay. I would say probably Daft Punk.
Really?
Yeah, I would want to work with those guys. Those guys tend to have a knack for seeing what another artist is doing, namely The Weeknd, and being able to take what they do and mesh it perfectly. They, on their 2013 album, Random Access Memories, they had a song, oh God, I forget the name, which is, it's called a Perfect Crush, I think. But they had Julian Casablancas from the Strokes, as a vocalist on that track, and it somehow sounded both like a Strokes song and a Daft Punk song. So
that's hard to do.
Yeah, but when they're so talented at it, they can just see it and know, or at least that's the impression I'm getting when I see their collaborations. Plus, I'm a big fan of the vocoder. A lot of people mistake vocoding with auto-tune. And even that, a lot of people mistake auto-tune with pitch correction. Just to dive a little bit deeper, almost every artist, all of them, when they record an album or a song and they record the vocals, usually part of the editing is you go in and you pitch correct the vocals, not to a crazy degree, but just because recording something is different than playing it live. You're putting out like a product that people are going to listen to and hear for years and years to come. You're trying to paint a very good picture. So you typically will pitch correct it, not to the point where it sounds like auto-tune, because auto-tune is obviously the T-Pain effect. And people mistake that. Like I hear a lot of people, they're like, oh, I bet he uses auto-tune. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you probably don't really know what auto-tune is, because if you knew that just about every artist you listen to uses pitch correction, you know what I mean? Which is the same process as auto-tune. It's just kind of dialed back in a way where you don't hear any of that stuff. You know what I mean? But vocoding is something entirely different. Vocoding is where you take the signal of an instrument and you modify it with the signal of vocals. So think about a talk box. A talk box is the same thing. You have like an instrument, usually a keyboard or a guitar, and you use your voice to modify that signal. And it usually comes out sounding crazy robotic and like crazy harmonies and all that kinds of things. That's what I like. I like vocoders. And Daft Punk was one of the artists that pioneered that being used in mainstream music. Started with Kraftwerk way back in the day. There's I believe, German group called Kraftwerk, and they really started doing it. And then Daft Punk really took it to the next level. And I've always loved vocoders. So that's another reason why I would totally choose Daft Punk.
Daft Punk is an old band too. They've been around forever, right?
Yeah. Did you hear they broke up?
I just want to be very transparent here. I've never heard a Daft Punk song.
Oh, that's fine.
I feel like I'm a music connoisseur, and I feel like a lot of people fucking know who Daft Punk is, and I feel like a piece of shit.
No. Okay, so you know how like Red Hot Chili Peppers kind of has that sound where it's like there's not a whole lot going on. It's basically just normal guitar, normal drums, normal vocals, and normal bass. Imagine kind of that formula, except electronic dance music. That's essentially, in a nutshell, kind of what Daft Punk is. There's a lot of robotic voices. There's a lot of sample-based musical structure. I highly recommend giving them a go. I mean, it's super duper cool what they did, especially in my opinion, their earlier work, namely their second album. Their second album, Discovery, is just amazing. And another thing too is I'm not a huge fan of anime. However, Daft Punk, watching interviews of them and stuff, they loved this particular Japanese anime artist when they were growing up. So when they did their second album, they reached out to this guy, and he animated and produced an entire movie that goes with their second album. And each music video of the song is some of that movie. So if you go on YouTube and look up the music videos and watch them all together, it's actually a movie in itself. Like, it's actually advertised as a movie and that stuff. It's called Interstellar 5555, The Secret Star System or something like that. But it is an amazing anime film, and it just goes with the whole Daft Punk second album. And oh my God, is it amazing.
And you don't like anime, but you like this.
Well, I don't per se dislike anime. There's some that I've watched, for instance, Attack on Titan. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, I absolutely loved that Daft Punk movie. Dude, you should totally watch it. Really, you should. It's, oh my God, it's just incredible. Even just as a standalone animated film, holy shit. Like, it's on the level of like Fern Gully, The Page Master, that kind of thing. It's really, really a great film.
You literally just named two movies I watched on repeat as a child.
I really enjoyed Fern Gully because I loved the villain Hexus. And another thing too, I think I've always been fascinated with transformation as a concept. I think that's why I like vocoders, because the human voice now becomes the robo voice. So this human character, this singer, they were singing, and then suddenly they're suddenly robotic. That's like transformation. And when you watch the villain of Fern Gully's musical number, he transforms. He like starts in the beginning as like a little blob. Then for a split second, he's like an oil skeleton. And then he's like this big gas monster, all while doing a musical number. When I was a little kid, I just watched that over and over and over again. I would even pause on certain moments to get like a good look at his face, and I would draw it. And I would take it to school the next day and like stand in front of the class and be like, this is what I drew. Who wants this? And do that kind of thing.
One of the ways that I found myself discovering a lot of music as a kid too is through video games. Like, for example, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. Like, oh my God, top to bottom.
Did you catch the song from that very game? Did you catch the song Imaginary Places by Bus Driver?
That one doesn't stick out to me.
It's like this rap song. It starts out with a flute. It's like, do. I'm just here to hold your hand when you die and show you around imaginary places. Put many lumps in my bloody stump. I found out about him through that game. I'm not like extensively into rap. I'm into very selective rap. Bus Driver is probably my favorite rapper. I also like Cage. There's a relatively unknown rap artist. His name is K Reno. He's actually, I think he'd probably be my first favorite aside from Bus Driver, because K Reno raps about really scientific shit. And he goes into straight up wordsmithing. Like, you think to yourself, oh my God, how did you think to write this line? How did you think to put those words together? That's the kind of rap that I enjoy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I'm more of a Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I can't go wrong there. Got to get that paper.
Yeah. And I mean, Wu-Tang Clan is great, but I'm more of a Method man. I'm more so.
Okay. You know, I heard that apparently Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with.
That's just a rumor from my understanding.
Okay. Yeah. I won't,
yeah.
Thinking of what to say, because I'm not going to say, well, I guess I'll take it with a grain of salt, because my God, they're legendary. So thinking about what kind of joke am I going to make there? Maybe I just won't. I'll just,
Now, what do you think is like a band that you would say that you're a little embarrassed to admit that you liked, maybe as a kid?
Avril
'Cause I got
Lavigne.
a little too into Jay-Z.
Avril Lavigne.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, I was made fun of because I was like hyper focused on Eiffel 65.
Whoa.
Yeah, my first song that I was ever really obsessed with that really broke me into loving music was the song Blue Dabba Dee. And I would play that song on repeat. And finally, my mom bought me the album, and I listened to only that album until I was about 11. And that's when I found out about Breaking Benjamin. But people made fun of me for listening to that because it wasn't what 50 Cent or whoever the fuck else was like doing the big thing. You know what I mean? I've always been I tend to like what I like, and you know what I mean? And my peers have definitely felt certain ways about certain things that I've liked. But I'd say Avril Lavigne is probably the most conventionally embarrassing one, you know?
I remember whenever I started kind of finding my own voice, because I have an older brother and he would be listening to the Jay-Z's of the world and stuff like that. And I find myself guilty by association, enjoying it, dare I say. But I discovered Offspring. Pretty Fly for a White Guy came out, and it's not necessarily the words. I enjoyed the actual music behind it, just the whole package.
They got a presence. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, they're legends for a reason. And I went to Walmart with my mom, and she was like, "Yeah, I'll get you the CD, the Offspring CD." But she wasn't hip to music and stuff like that. So she walked up to the cashier. She was like, "I want to get my son this Offspring CD, but is it appropriate for kids?" And I looked at this dude like, you better get the right answer.
Oh man.
And he was like, yeah, it's pretty tame. Yeah, it's pretty tame stuff. Yeah, he'd like it. So, yeah, that changed everything for me. Offspring and Korn, I would say, really changed.
Oh, I bet Korn was anything with the Family Values tour, which Rammstein was also a part of, Marilyn Manson, all that stuff. That's all the stuff that's like so cliche. The parents like, oh my God, this is warping our children's minds. I think Korn was like way up there, you know. They definitely had some risque stuff.
I'm definitely guilty of being oh God, I loved Limp Bizkit when I was a kid.
I only recently really got into them. My drummer back in Digital Collapse, his name's Tom. He loved Limp Bizkit. And I guess I just didn't connect with the vocals. I'm very picky with vocals. For instance, I don't really listen to Avenged Sevenfold, but when I do, I just don't necessarily like how the singer sounds. I want to be really careful saying this because I don't know if I'm ever going to get to talk to anybody, you know, and I don't want them to be like, you know, fucking, I don't want to give the impression that I dislike anybody or anybody's art, but like the melodies, the structure of the vocals, I dig that. But the way that he's, because I hear people all the time saying that they don't like how the singer of Volbeat sounds. Personally, I like it. You know, it's that kind of thing. It's just, I guess I'm really picky, but I was going somewhere with this. I forgot where I was going.
No, I totally get what you're saying. I was a closet music fan for a lot of bands, and my best example, my favorite band ever, is Coheed and Cambria.
Oh my God, dude, I love them so much. They might even be like my favorite band right now besides Rammstein. I'm not even kidding. I listen to them every single fucking day.
They just came out with a new album too, which is fucking perfection.
Dude, I just recently discovered their song Away We Go. And holy shit, I just love it so much. A lot of what, and dude, I like bands where you can tell it's maybe kind of one guy. I think a lot of the strong bands come from where somebody has a full vision on it. Similar to like when, you know, like George Lucas, like he made Star Wars. And then when he got the team and the budget, he made Star Wars because he had that vision. I think Coheed and Cambria is another great example of that, because Claudio, with the comics and the story and like the way that he's writing that music, I love that. And that's one thing that attracts me to that. And I find that to be, that's who they are. That's who that band is. Not saying that it like all hinges on Claudio as if to say the other members don't matter. That's obviously not the case. It's just that you got a visionary in the mix who's carrying it and doing the thing. I've always really liked that.
Yeah, I'll never forget it. I was in ninth grade, broadcast journalism, and we had to make a video with music in the background. And I was still very much so. I'll go ahead and paint myself in this picture. I was kind of a poser, listen to whatever was popular, and I chose the song "Hey Ya" by Outkast, and for
Okay.
my video. And but there was this really fucking cool kid in my class. He was like a couple grades above me, and just girls liked him, and he had the emo fucking swoop and just the whole nine yards.
Mm,
Super chill guy.
had the
And
fringe.
he used a Favor House Atlantic. And
Aha.
I was a closet Coheed fan. I didn't want to tell people because all of my friends were like fucking Slipknot and Pantera.
The elitist mindset. It's got to
Yeah,
be hyper masculine music or else it's not valid. It's just odd.
that totally changed my mind on Coheed after that. I told everybody after that. I was like, I'm a big fucking Coheed fan. Yeah.
I found out about them through the song Welcome Home. That was the one that was really being like televised and marketed back when I discovered them.
That's their most popular song, in my opinion.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's, if they play, I've never seen them live, but I would imagine when they play live, if you hear that,
I saw them and Taking Back Sunday, and that's how
oof.
they closed their show.
Yeah, dude. I bet because that's the kicker for them for sure. Same thing with Disturbed. I think because I saw Disturbed in 2020, and the last song they played, you actually thought that they were done. Like the lights went off and everything else, and everybody was starting to move as if it was done, and then
Down with the sickness.
yeah, and it's like that's that, and dude, that again brings it to that's that branding, that's that something there. Like I've worked with people and they'll write a song, and it's just kind of this tossed together thing, and I think to myself, okay, well that's not going to latch, you know what I mean, just as a producer. Yet when you write a song and you're thinking about the structure and like how it's gonna, a lot of the elitist mentality will tell you that's selling out. A drummer I was working with for the longest time, he told me that one of the artists that he looked up to, I can't remember the name, but said artist was doing an interview, and the person was like, hey, people are saying that you're selling out, what do you think of that? And the guy goes, yes, I sell out. I sell out every fucking ticket to every fucking show.
Mhm.
And it's like, do you want to succeed or do you not want to succeed? One thing I've always said is if Disney ever called me and said, hey, we're rebooting the Wiggles, we want you to cover your tattoos up and be the front man, like I wouldn't do it. Of course I would fucking do it. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's that kind of thing.
Fuck. I just want
correct.
No, but the way that you just described how Disturbed, the lights off and everything, that fucking gave me chills just now.
That's part of the act. You got to think about your act. You got to think about all these different little assets. And I think even the smallest things are very vital, or at least that's how I am. You know what I mean? There's plenty of bands that, did their stuff in such a way that it was like more unhinged, more what have you. I think it just depends on the artist, but you look at artists like Disturbed and stuff like that, and something caught, something was identified at some point. It was like, this is the ticket. And then you lean into that. That's part of business. You know what I mean? And to succeed, I mean, you got to do business. So it's like, what are you going to do?
What would you say is like some of your favorite things to do in music? Like, cause I've seen that some of your projects have these like really great like music videos, and I'm from that era where music videos were so fucking important, and
Absolutely.
so what's some of your like most fun things that you like to do with music?
Well, I again have always really liked transformation, also polarity. I've always liked the concept of polarity. I did some work with a guy out of Dallas, Texas back in 2020. I wanted to do a cover of Fireflies by Owl City. So I was like, hey, track a rock instrumental, give it to me. I'll record my vocals to it here at home. We'll send it off to Mixmaster. Then let's coordinate a video shoot for it. He kind of let me take the reins and have the vision for it. And I wanted to do polarity. So I had him dress in all white and shoot his footage on the top of I was like, go find a roof somewhere in the city and record during the day, I'm going to go on there's this place called the Rims in Billings, Montana. And it's basically this massive cliff that overlooks the entire city. And I was like, I'm going to dress in all black and shoot my shots at night overlooking the city. We put that together. And that, even if you don't consciously recognize that that's what's happening in the music video, I think people subconsciously, because the human brain is a pattern detecting machine. And, so all of these things, I tend to think about all of these things, and I try to include that kind of hook in whatever I do visually, because I think that visually is just as important. So I like both having fun and doing something that is strong and identifiable and that kind of thing. I think it's a fine line to walk, and you got to work with people who know what that line is,
Now, how is the music scene in Billings, Montana? Did it surprise you? Were you maybe be like, I kind of wish there was more going on here?
So I've always kind of wanted to talk about this in a public way, but I, for the most part, dislike scenes, because scenes tend to be comprised of people who grew up together, went to high school together, very cliquey kind of thing. And they tend to be not as welcoming to people who do other things, or to people who are not from their inclusive kind of thing. When I got to Billings, it was kind of half and half, because I played a couple of, well, actually, when I first moved there was a popular local band. They were like the biggest of the local bands. And when I got there, they had known who I was from Digital Collapse. They had like heard of me and heard the band and stuff like that. And I guess they were having problems with their singer. And when I got there, they fired him and they brought me in. Right away, that split everybody's opinion on me as a newcomer. Everybody was mad at me for replacing this guy that they had grown to love so much and that kind of thing. So I went and I did a couple solo acoustic shows, and the audience, I felt, responded positively towards me, but the musicians in the area, they didn't. And it was really hard to kind of find people I found a few people who were, they didn't think in those ways. They were just about people, and not so much competition. And so I would say it was rough, you know what I mean? And that's another big reason why I decided to go from Montana to Florida, because for one, my mom lived here, and I wanted to, my mom and I kind of have an odd relationship, and I wanted to kind of come here and rekindle it, kind of heal old wounds, as well as find new opportunity. And I knew that Orlando, Florida is a hot spot for music, similar to Dallas, Texas, Denver, Colorado, Nashville, Tennessee, that kind of thing. And it was a completely different story coming here. Here, I was welcomed very warmly. Yes, this was the first time that I went somewhere and people weren't like, oh, what, this guy's talented, fuck him. That tends to have been what was in the past. People here have been, dude, I like what you're doing. Let's work. Who are you? Let's talk. And that's what I've always wanted. Those are the kind of moves that I want to make, not just for business, but for human connection. You know what I mean? Because I can't be anybody other than myself. Like, I can't fake it. I'm not good at faking who I am as an artist. I can say that it's maybe easy for me to hold back, but to not be myself, that I can't do. And for me to be myself and to have been in multiple scenes where the scenes have just been like, nope, we like, this guy's good at what he does and we don't like that. I feel like that's what it's been, but not here in Florida. It's been the opposite in Florida, which I love.
Now, one thing I did notice, like, as to kind of relate to that, like in the wrestling business, if there's like a really older guy who knows his shit, sometimes, he will take you under his wing or something like that. You help me, I help you. I'll help, if there's anything I can help you along with. But then, on that same token, there's guys who are like, oh, this fucking guy's trying to take my spot. I'm going to bury him as many chances as I get. I don't know. I don't know if that's the same in the music industry. I'd have to assume it is.
I think it depends on the person. I think it depends on how certain people see certain things. I think that there are certain musicians that, will feel threatened or intimidated or what have you. I think that's common. and I think it just depends. I've seen that. I have seen that. I've experienced that as well. But I would think there's something to say on the distinction of like physical, because wrestling, obviously, it's a very physical kind of thing. And it involves stuff that I can't speak too far into because I don't know, but I can only imagine when you're physically touching people and it's, like a wrestling kind of thing.
Theater. Yeah.
Yeah. I would imagine it's a little bit different, but there's some similarities as far as, I think that's across the board with art, with anything that's artistically public or, trying to get somewhere with something that you're attempting to publicize and that kind of thing.
So let's talk. Let's get a little weird on the Travis DuFour Show.
I am in. Let's do it.
Go ahead and give me, if you can think of one. What's like the strangest venue, for example? Like the strangest venue.
Ooh. Okay. We played. Oh God, I just remembered the name. I have not been able to remember the name of this place forever until just now. There's a place called the Foo Bar. I forget what state it's in, but it is a venue, relatively small. This was on the Non-Point tour. We went there. It's like got a bunch of arcade cabinets in it. And it's like that's what it's like based around, is there's arcade cabinets everywhere. And it was kind of this like arcade / music place. And that worked really well for me because I'm a big video game guy. I'm a big electronics guy, and everybody that was there, both artists and audience people, they had like that kind of culture and how they carried themselves. Like if let's say you meet somebody and they're wearing a Legend of Zelda shirt, like I got a Banjo-Kazooie shirt right here. You like identify with that and you're like, that's my kind of people kind of thing. That happened at the Foo Bar. And though it was incredibly positive, yeah, it was like strange, strange in the way that it's like, whoa, like, I like this, it's very different and I'm down with this. So I'd probably say that.
Let me give you a weird scenario. You're put in a room. You can only play one video game for the next 100 years. What is going to be your video game? Now I'll go first real quick, kind of give you a second here.
Oh, my nipples. This hurts my nipples.
They hurt when I twist them. I would have to say, man, Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. I could fucking play that one over and over again.
I want to say either Banjo-Kazooie. I'm sorry, not Banjo-Kazooie, but either Banjo-Tooie or The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. However, being realistic, it's very possible to play those games and doing the same thing over and over be a little mundane. So I think I'm going to have to go with Resident Evil 4 because I have played that game, not exaggerating. I've played the campaign well over 20 times, and it doesn't get old. The mechanics of how you fight the Ganados are it just does not get old, especially compared to the Resident Evils prior. So I would say Resident Evil 4. And they just announced the Resident Evil 4 remake, I believe, yesterday, which is fucking badass. Yeah. Oh God, yeah. And I was thinking about streaming Resident Evil 4 when I start my video game stuff. I'm actually doing my first filming of a video game playthrough tomorrow.
What's the game?
It's going to be Resident Evil Village.
Okay.
Which I've already beaten the living shit out of. I'm going to do a run with the strongest guns because I've unlocked like all the strongest weapons. So I'm going to do like a crazy playthrough where I just dismantle everything. You know what I mean?
I'll never forget whenever Resident Evil 2 specifically came out. I could not play that game.
Too scary?
Oh, dude. Oh, my God. My older brother, I would watch him play it, though.
I've heard a lot of stories of people, their first Resident Evil game was Resident Evil 2. And I was actually just watching a YouTube video where you ever watch What Culture Gaming? Yeah. Jules, that guy. Hi, hello, it's Jules from What Culture here.
Yeah.
Yes. He I love that guy. He's so badass. He's super cool. He's real smooth with how he talks and stuff. Very witty.
Yeah, they started in wrestling. That's how I know them.
Really? I did not know that.
What Culture Wrestling. Yep.
Oh my God. That's badass. News to me. Yeah. I was just watching a video the day before yesterday, and that's exactly what he was saying. He was talking about Resident Evil 2. He said that he had a demo disc that had a very small section of the opening segment of Resident Evil 2, and he like stood on a dumpster or something because there were zombies on both sides, and he was so fucking scared. Yeah. So I guess so. That was a little bit. You mind me asking your age? You're a pinch older than me, aren't you?
34.
34. Yeah. So that was your because I was like really little when Resident Evil 2 came out. I didn't fully grasp Resident Evil until 4 came out, and even then it was like 2 years after 4 came out. I must have been 12 kind of thing.
Yeah. I think I was like 9 or 10. Yeah. As far as horror games go, probably my favorite horror game, I don't even know if this could be considered. It totally should though. Whenever they made Friday the 13th, the game.
The recent one from like 2017. I have yet to play that. But speaking of horror games, there's only been one game that actually scared me, and I was like, shit, I don't know if I can play this. And that was PT, the Silent Hills demo for the PS4 they wound up taking it down and the whole project got canceled. But that scared the shit out of me. And no other game has I've just been desensitized because I grew up loving horror. And even at a very young age, I was watching like Gremlins and shit, and Gremlins scared me, But as far as video games, because it's so interactive, I guess nothing really scared me because I played Dead Space and stuff. Not even a flinch, But like PT, holy shit, the surmounting dread. You know what I mean? There's a game called Subnautica that I think would really scare me because I've got a particular phobia of plesiosaurs specifically. I have a phobia of encountering a plesiosaur. It is what many believe the Loch Ness Monster to be. Dinosaur with a long neck and then fins and a tail. I'm horrified of them. No, it's okay. You wouldn't be the first. Everybody I tell that, they're like, what are you fucking what? But it's because when I was really little, I was fascinated with the legend of the Loch Ness Monster. So I did lots of studying and stuff. Next thing you know, I started having nightmares of like being in the water and my head would dip below the water and I would see this massive plesiosaur face come at me. So anything in the water, like murky water where you can't see, terrified. Not of sharks or like anything, not of giant squids, but particularly a plesiosaur. So I feel like Subnautica would fuck me up pretty bad. There's a game called Horizon that a sequel just came out, and they've got plesiosaurs in it, so I won't fucking be playing that. No way.
The scariest scene in any movie I've ever seen was in Castaway, whenever the plane goes down and then he just watches the plane sink into the ocean.
Oh shit. I haven't watched that movie all the way through to know that part, but now I kind of want to see that.
Scares the fuck out of me.
There was oh shit, now I just forgot what I was gonna say. Oh well, probably wasn't important.
I will say though that the scariest movie I have ever seen is Signs.
Oh my god, dude, I just watched Signs recently, and you know what's nuts? I totally agree with you. That movie is PG-13, but the way that they did it is so scary. And I even remember being in 4th grade and my teacher, Mr. Hansen, by the way, favorite teacher. I'm still in contact with him. I love that man. He's so awesome. His name's Mr. Hansen. He was very, very good to me when I was in 4th grade, like special treatment good. Like he was
props to Mr. Hansen.
Yep. Mr. Hansen, if you watch this and you see this, I fucking love you, dude. I hope you're doing well. But he, one day while we were like, the whole class was like done with their work and we all had a minute to talk and the teacher was talking to us. He was like, have you guys seen Signs? And everybody's like, yeah, I remember him saying, that is a scary, scary movie. And he's like, you're right. It is. It really is. For being PG-13. It's about how you use that dread. You know what I mean? And that's kind of that visionary stuff that I keep going back to. It's like, you got to know how to do these things. You know what I mean? It takes intuition, which I feel is kind of rare.
If we're giving out shout outs real quick, I do want to give a big shout out to my art teacher whenever I was a kid. His name was Mr. Mazingo, and he was the one who made me realize that I was colorblind. And he looked at me one day and said, well, Trav, you're colorblind. Doesn't look like you're going to be able to complete any of these assignments. So my best advice to you is to keep your eyes on the stars because you're never going to be one. Fuck
Whoa.
him.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
you wait, Mr. Mazinga. If I catch you out in public.
that took as big of a turn as me shitting my pants trying to schedule a show at Hot Topic. Hopefully he'll shit his pants trying to schedule a show at Hot Topic.
Now, to kind of keep this back on the rails, of the big three, I'm really interested in your answer on this one. Jason, Michael, Freddie. Who's your guy?
I don't think I'm going to have an answer that you like.
Okay.
Because none of them. I'm a Chucky guy through and through.
Come on, man. Just of the big three, just pick one.
Oh boy. One. Okay, I would say. Oh God, look at that. Sweat marks.
Yeah, there it is. Good job.
I'll turn the AC up in here. I'd say I'm gonna go with Michael Myers.
Yes.
I'm going to go with Michael Myers because there's something real about that. There's a fantastical element to the other two. Like the one's taking place in dreams. The other one's kind of unrealistic because like nothing seems to kill him and he keeps coming back. Michael Myers, on the other hand, that tends to tell a story about a guy with severe psychological issues who just happens to be a really fucking massive guy.
Yes.
That to me is a little more frightening in the aspect of like
really happen. Yes.
Yeah.
And now unveiling the glow in the dark chase, Michael Myers.
Look at that.
This is worth about $500-$600.
Oh my God, dude. That's badass. Good for you.
I literally ordered this off Amazon and they sent me the chase.
That's super cool. I've always wanted a Walter White Funko Pop. Is that what they're called? Funko Pops?
What do you collect? Do you collect Pops?
No, to be honest, I don't really collect much of anything. I was never really into collecting. My dad collected stamps, and he's got some awesome stamp collections. He just sent me a picture not too long ago, and not to be like super dark, but when he passes, those are going to me, and I'm going to be displaying those in my house for the rest of my life. And if I have a son, they'll go to him, kind of thing. And I'm very excited about those, though I've never really collected much of anything. Actually, dude, I'm lying. I've recently started collecting pig figurines because I love pigs. I think they're so fucking cute. They're my favorite animal. Okay. But see this black bookshelf behind me?
Yeah.
First shelf, second shelf, third shelf. You can kind of even see the little pig head right there. That whole shelf is nothing but pig figurines because they're super cute.
So as a kid, would you fucking keep asking your mom, tell me the 3 pig story again?
Oh my God. Actually, no, because liking pigs and finding them really cute, that didn't really happen until 2013. I remember I was in Digital Collapse when I first discovered my love for pigs. So nope, no 3 little pigs for me. I just blew that house down.
So we are on our way to kind of put a bow on this episode. I do want to kind of take this back into the music. In a perfect world, in Corey's perfect world, where is music taking you in 2022 and kind of beyond?
Well, I have a lot to say, but not much at the same time. I feel like this is where I can be really candid. I'm going to light a cigarette before I get into this.
No, yes, we need candid Corey. Light that cigarette.
I'll be straight up. I quit Dark Summer, the band that I was in. For those that don't know, I joined a band last year in November called Dark Summer. They contacted me and asked me to join. I at first actually said no because there was things about kind of their branding and stuff that I wasn't totally on board with. I was actually in another band that I considered to be like my main band at the time.
And were you honest with them? Were you telling them that?
Yep. Okay. I told them I had phone calls with the guy that asked me to join, and I said, hey, here's some things that I'm seeing, and that's not necessarily something that I, that's not vibing with me right as far as like how this could happen. Because if I'm going to join a project, it's got to either have all those things that I'm talking about, like as far as like really branding it correctly, or at least could be or could become that. It just basically just needs to be done right. That's it. It just needs to be done right and in industry standard ways, held to that really high standard. And I initially declined, told him why. But then the band that I was in at the time, things started getting a little muddy. We started not knowing exactly what was going to happen. And I wanted to be in something that was at least playing live and doing live shows, which Dark Summer was doing at the time. So I called him up and I said, let's think about this again. And, I'll give it a go. I gave it a go.
You got back in touch with them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. And I joined and we started working on this song that honestly, they already had it done. There was a music video shot for it and stuff. But I was like, I think I need to re-record these vocals. I think we need to retrack, which they agreed to. And they were initially going to just reshoot only the singer shots. And there was also a new guitar player since they had shot the video, because I wasn't the only new guy. There was me and another new guy who was also named Corey. And they wanted to just reshoot what would be my shots and his shots. But I was like, okay, what about the full band shots then? What about those money shots? That wouldn't work. And also in the video that they had shot, there was like these big scrims of lyrics that had like shit to do with like betrayal and stuff like that. And that had nothing to do with the new lyrics that I wrote. So I kind of had to push them to, I was like, we need to reshoot this music video. And almost everybody was like, no. And that's kind of where I was starting to really run into problems. I was like, then there's a lot of things here that like won't work. You know what I mean? Like how that's not a product that is fully realized. Then, I mean, I think we need to bite the bullet and really do what's going to make this a strong, you know what I mean? I was finally able to get them to, we refilmed the video with this amazing videographer here in Orlando. Well, I don't think he's in Orlando. I forget exactly where he is, but he's here in Florida. His name's Toddy. Oh my God. I don't know the name of his studio, like what he calls himself on social media, but Toddy Babu, TODDIBABU. Amazing videographer. Go check him out. He reshot the video, right? Then we had the bass player and the guitar player leave. They left before we could put the video out. Wow. We got two new people, and these two new people, they were badass. They had previously been in a band called Exotype, which was signed to a big record label.
They both were.
Yep, they were in the band together.
Okay, so that has some benefits to that. Cool. Okay.
Yep, and they had a lot of that knowledge, a lot of that intuition. And so when they joined, we knew that we needed to shoot it again. We needed to bite the bullet and shoot it again. The only person who was in disagreement was the drummer. So the drummer left because it just wasn't working out. And I think also my kind of stipulations of like, we need to do this right. I don't think he really liked that. I can't speak for him. I thought he was a great guy. I still do. It just wasn't vibing right. And at that point he decided it was no longer for him. So he left.
What people need to remember is there is times where you should separate your professional life with your personal. And as long as on a personal level, you're still cool with people, that speaks volumes, but continue.
I think that, he also has a wife and two kids and that kind of thing. And sure. So we reshot the video again and got kind of a drummer who wasn't officially in the band. He just kind of like he filled in for the music video. He's a cool ass guy too. His name's Johnny. He is a really well-known guy in the music scene out here in Orlando and Central Florida and stuff like that. So we reshot the video and finally put it out. And that was the song In My Heart. That got really good reception. I was I wasn't like, this is going to sound arrogant, but I wasn't surprised that it got such a good reception because we nailed it the fuck down. We did it right. We did everything right. And it came out good in the end. And that spoke volumes for how it, was perceived.
It sounds like you're proud of it. Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then we started moving into the new song, which is still coming out. I'm going to go ahead and plug it. It's called Dancing in the Pain. It's coming out on June 10th, music video and the song. We ran into a couple issues where the guys wanted to do certain things that I did not feel were going to benefit the band as far as keeping the continuity of the brand and doing it as good as we possibly could do it. One of those things was there was talks of taking an old Dark Summer song that was previously out with like the previous singer, remove the lyrics and just retract the vocals and make it into a new song. The thing is, it didn't sound like what we now sounded like. And I was like, I think that's a bad move. The guitars sounded to me distinctly different, and it did not fit into what we had now cemented as this, new thing. So I had a big problem with that. And I can admit that I was a little aggressive, like in how I was expressing this. I was like, come on, guys, like, why do you, because we would get into these talks and it seemed like at every turn they wanted to make decisions that I didn't agree with as far as branding. And if I disagree, like if I feel that a decision is about to be made that's going to shoot the band in the foot, then I kind of question whether or not I want to be in it. And I was very assertive in how I felt about these things. And it came across, I'm sure, very dickish. I didn't mean for it to. I think I can chalk some of that up to like fucking ADHD and like fucking, I had some shit going on at home too that was like really fucking with my head, and I was trying to come to terms with it. Frankly, the at home and like kind of issues that I was having, they went back so far that when I was starting to process things, I think it really affected kind of how I was like acting. I think maybe I was being a little too aggressive in how I was going about these things. And then we got hit with an offer. There's a metal festival here in Central Florida called Central Florida Metal Fest. And we got offered a slot, usually you have to pay to play on the festival. We got offered a free slot. And
is this a well-known festival then?
Yep. 2 people in the band were like, yes, we need to do it. It was only 4 months away from when we got offered it. At first I was like, yeah, okay, cool. But then it was kind of like, oh boy, I actually don't think that's a good idea at all, because we had never even been in a live setting before as a band. We didn't have our gear figured out as far as I knew. We didn't know how we were even going to navigate the various tunings that we were going to use, because we had multiple tunings. Usually a band will have multiple instruments either backstage or like on the stage. And when they need to go into a new tuning, they just grab the new instrument. For instance, if a song is in drop A, you'll be playing in instruments that are tuned to drop A. And then if you have a song that's next and it's in drop C, you'll grab that instrument that's now tuned to drop C, and bands do it all the time. However, there is a workaround. There's a pedal called Digitech Drop Tune, and you can actually just use the pedal, and you can take the guitar that you already have, and it'll, like, when it comes out of the speakers in real time, it is changed to whatever that new tuning is. And that's stuff that we had talked about, but we didn't have any of that really nailed down yet. We also didn't have enough material for it.
Can I ask, how often were you guys getting together?
It was slimmer than I would have liked it to be. We were getting together to mainly record and kind of hang out and get to know each other, which those times that we were together, I did very much feel like I had a brotherhood with them. I fell in love with the guys. I really did. There was just some disagreements in how another thing to consider too is that Dark Summer was Zach's band, really, since its inception. Dark Summer is a 10-year-old band, and it's had kind of many lineups and differences in like even really genre as it's gone. And I think that Zach, who has been like the main guy throughout the entire thing, had this kind of thing that he had gotten used to of like how it was. And we were kind of butting heads there because the band was starting to become its own thing that sounded different from that, which in my opinion was good. We had a solid, you know what I mean? But there was things there, and it kind of messed with me because I hated seeing how, like, I could tell that he loved that project. It was his whole thing, you know? And I respected that about him, to see somebody so passionate about something that they had worked to not just create, but get to how far it had gotten. So there was just kind of things there. And again, when it was about this festival, in my opinion, we were not even close to prepared. And for us to just switch gears and try to hurry up and put a live act together in that amount of time, I didn't think was smart, because if we were to go this way, I'll just pitch it as if I'm pitching it to, like the guys or whatever. If we were to instead take the rest of the year to not even worry about live, because again, we didn't even know, I think we had an idea of where we were going to rehearse, but we would have had to like coordinate all of that. In my opinion, if we were going to be this new high profile, like the biggest new thing in active rock, what I thought was best is we don't do any live shows, probably for the rest of the year. And we focus on putting out content, good songs with good music videos, and get those numbers to grow, which I knew that we could do because we slam dunked In My Heart. I think even now it's at like 127K views on YouTube, and it's streaming relatively well. I thought that we needed to continue doing that, because if we can focus on the content, then there's no distractions of like trying to manage live simultaneously. And then by the time an opportunity like that does happen, you know, let's say that we spend the rest of the year putting out 5 songs. Okay. 3 of them have music videos. And then once it's all out, you know, and those numbers are growing, then we can start focusing on a live act in the winter months. We can, you know, huddle down and start focusing on live. And then in the next year, when events start happening and we start getting offered stuff, by then we will have had 6, maybe 7 months of rehearsing, perfect live act, perfect light show, perfect everything. It'll have that synergy that it really, really needs. I think that's what, like, an act that's supposed to be what we were pretty much verbally agreeing that we were trying to make this thing be. I think that's what it took. And I can say that I was totally wrong in how aggressively I came about it, because that was like the 3rd or 4th thing that we had disagreed on. And I was like, man, I just don't know anymore, guys. Like, I think that these ideas are dumb. This is how I was saying it. I was like, I think these ideas are dumb. I don't like this. And I'm really questioning if I want to be in this now. I was far too aggressive, straight up. That I regret, that I admit fault for. And I quit publicly on Facebook, and I did it without like telling them. I had actually that same day I had just left the chat, because I was like, look, I got to think, man. I don't think I'm going to stay in this. I need to think. So I left the chat. And then like 10 minutes later, there was actually a further misunderstanding, because the bass player's, one of his family members posted something that I thought was actually directed at me. And that was kind of the nail in the coffin for me. So I publicly quit on Facebook. That was impulsive of me. It was irresponsible of me. It was also very inconsiderate of me, considering all of the work that went into it, because we had a drummer that I brought into the band. His name's Victor, and he came from Kansas City to be in this band. And he came here, spent a shit ton of money to drive here and like all that stuff. So I was very inconsiderate as far as that goes. But in some ways, that's kind of the guy that I am, because it's like, if something I feel really isn't going to work, I'm not going to front it. You know, I'm not going to be the face of that. So that's kind of how that happened. And then quickly afterwards, I realized, man, it didn't have to go down that way. And a lot of the aggressive, assertive way that I was coming off, I think had a lot to do with me processing some of the shit that I was processing outside of the band. But I think the damage had already been done. The bass player actually blocked me, probably rightfully so. I'm sure he was very pissed off at me. But truth be told, I kind of flip-flop, because one minute I think to myself, I would love to go back. I would love to see if maybe we can figure out a plan and come back and like do it right, especially with maybe how I approach things. There's I'm sure different ways that I could go about approaching disagreements. Let's say we're in the chat and I disagree with something. I could just take a break. I don't have to respond right away. I could take a day, 2 days to think about it. And then, you know what I mean? So I could go about that way differently. And I'd like to say that to those guys, but it's just really fucking hard. I've already told it to one of the guitar players. I've spoken my piece, and I posted on Facebook a video not too long ago where I was saying where they had decided that they don't want me to come back. And in that moment, yeah, I kind of didn't want to go back either, because I've just launched this new brand for myself. But truth be told, if it's somehow possible, I am willing to talk to those guys, and I would like to possibly see it go to where something could still happen. If it can't, then there's nothing I can really do except just accept what I did. That, you know, all I can do is accept kind of my wrongdoing, but I still stand by what my issues were, you know what I mean? And that speaks volumes as far as like, well, could it have worked anyway? So there's that. That's one piece of it. So 2022 is looking like, if Dark Summer can somehow like get back together, rediscuss, kind of plan how we can communicate and do it again. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm very doubtful in it though, because again, I can't even really talk to these guys. It's just been kind of barred off communication. But aside from that, I have my new brand, and I can tell you this, an entire album will be coming out if not this year, then early next year. And even aside from that album, a lot of little ditties, like little mini covers, a lot of little YouTube covers are going to be coming out. I'm going to be doing that a lot with my buddy Jared, who I was mentioning before. Go check him out on YouTube, The Blind People Watcher. He's also got an amazing documentary out. It's called Blindsided. It talks about when he started going blind at a young age, and it's an amazing documentary. Shinedown is actually in it, dude.
What
Yep, it's incredible. They brought him onto their tour bus, and then they did a show at, I guess, some festival, and let Jared come up at a young age and play music with them. And Jared's just a fucking monster, dude. Not only is he a genius, but he also he has a guy that they live together. His name's David, and David is a very good audio engineer. Amazing recording, amazing gear. I mean, this dude is industry standard mix master quality, and he like runs all of the cameras and the streams and all that stuff. Just a very tech savvy guy. So a lot of what I'm going to be doing is partnered up with Mr. Jared and Mr. David, and I wouldn't have it any other way because I love those guys. And over the course, I've been working with them for about a year now, and we've come to really understand each other. So I can say, one, hopefully Dark Summer. If not, then at least we're getting one more piece of content with me on it. I don't know if they're going to find a new singer. I don't know if they're going to break up. I don't know. So there's one. Two, there's going to be a lot of like kind of interspersed content coming out. So little YouTube covers, little streamed acoustic performances. I'm also going to be playing acoustic performances live out around the Florida area. And then there's going to be an actual album. I actually wrote the entire album by myself. It's 11 tracks. It's currently being recorded in Orlando with Jared. Every Tuesday I go there and we work on it. I'm considering asking him if he's willing to stream the actual recording process, because when I'm recording the guitars, I'm doing it in that really nice live room and there's a camera on me. I think we should just stream it. I don't know if he's watching this, but Jared, if you are, there's that idea. So that's kind of all three wrapped up into one. There's going to be like, hopefully maybe some Dark Summer stuff. There's going to be kind of random little music things going on, just kind of whatever I feel like. And then there's going to be an entire album. So that's what the near future is looking like. Yeah.
Just to kind of make a comment about the Dark Summer deal that you were speaking on. I think that situations like this, because I've found myself in similar situations, plenty. I've learned maybe not mistake. I don't want to misspeak here. I've learned a lot about just going with how you fucking feel at the time, and and it biting you later in different ways. But it sounds like to me that this experience was very eye-opening, because you guys had a very clean music video, and it sounded good.
Wait till you see the one we're about to put out.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude. Like, frankly, I'll show it to you after the stream's done. I'll just send it to you. I'll let you watch it first before it even comes out, but you'll see what I'm saying. It's something else. It was shot entirely green screened. So it's crazy. It's nuts. Nobody's expecting this. I'll tell you that. So I'm glad that it's at least still coming out.
Fucking A. No, it sounds like you learned a lot about yourself. And we just got to keep our eyes on Corey Kipps, man. We got to see what's next for this guy. I'm very excited. It sounds like you're growing and you're learning. You're just a human being that's living their life just like everybody else. We all make mistakes, and we all are learning. So.
Yep. I feel like when it all boils down to it, I do stand by how I felt and what I think needs to happen for it to really, really take off the way that we are wanting it to. However, the way that I was communicating it was not, I don't think, appropriate in that setting. And that's what I want to change and work on. Hopefully it can happen. I mean, my fingers are crossed. I would really just like to be on a conference call with them and at least just talk to them. I'm hoping that it can at least get to that. I'm hoping that when the video comes out, there will be a good response. And then maybe we can like talk and be like, look, this is good. Maybe we shouldn't just dismantle the whole thing because we had differences and I was kind of an asshole about it. Let's just you know, we butted heads. So what? Is this good enough though that we should continue? In my opinion, yeah, it's worth talking about, you know. And if it can't from there, at least we talked.
Yeah.
You know. So that's yeah.
Well, I wish you the very best of luck with a possible future with Dark Summer. If that doesn't happen, I still think that your future looks bright, my man. And I just want I want to thank you so much for being on episode 9 of the Travis DuFour Show. This is a passion project for me, and I'm happy to have one of my longtime friends on here, Corey Kipps. And any final words before I put a bow on this?
Just thank you for having me on here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about so many things. This was a lot of fun. If you ever want to do it again, I'm more than down. And I'm happy for you, man, and the things that you do and that kind of thing. And let's keep in touch a little stronger now. Let's be pals, man. I missed you from when we were doing shit back in the day and that kind of thing. So
if we turn into pen pals, you're going to realize that my handwriting is fucking completely unreadable.
I've got really good handwriting.
Okay, write me then. Just write me. That's just a one-sided friendship here.
Sure. Okay. You'll just never respond. I'll just sure.
All right, guys.
Dude, what would you do if I actually mailed a letter to your fucking house and you just got it? And I'm like, hey, you asked me to write you, so here it is.
I'm down, dude. Very spontaneous guy. I'm down. But remember, guys, you can follow the DuFour brand at the DuFour brand. We're everywhere: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, you name it. We're everywhere. Thank you, everybody, for all the support moving forward. And until the next episode, this is Travis DuFour. Thank you again, Corey, and I will see you on the next episode.
Thanks.